I simply began to look at the statistics, and they weren't really in favor of people of color, people that look like me. One in four people of color die in childbirth, and the United States is a modern country, and of all the modern countries, the United States is leading in death in childbirth. So I'm like, wow, what's going on? Then, of course, unfortunately, just like most things in America, built on the backs of black women, began to research who people were, who were like considered the father of gynecology, how birthing transitioned from midwifery to hospitalization. And you know what it all goes back to, the good almighty coin. So I'm not going to say his name because it's so unfortunate that people have been victims of this man. People who were enslaved were unfortunately tested on. So in doing my research, I saw that women who were enslaved also had to turn over their rights to their body as it relates to medical studies, and were forced to go under medical procedures without anesthesia. And what I read was horrific. And I couldn't imagine writing that on paper, what they had experienced. So that to me was just heartbreaking, to see that someone's ancestor went through that just for us to get to where we are today. And it's not a rare case. In addition to that, I spoke to my grandmother's good girlfriend, and she kind of like interviewed her almost. I really want to listen to her whole birth story. She basically was telling me that she gave birth at home. She went to go see a midwife. She paid the midwife $35 to birth her child, all her children, $35. They lived in rural South Carolina. And I just was like, how do we get so far from that? So started doing some more research, and there was a little attack on midwives and black granny midwives, to be exact, because I believe from what I read, the money and funding that was going into childbirth, they needed to eradicate the midwives coming in taking the business. So they had to villainize them and make it seem like if you have your baby at home, you or your baby's gonna die. And made it seem like it's not a safe option. And at times, I'm sure there were casualties at home, just like how there are casualties in the hospital. But the point was to uplift white male doctors, empower white female nurses, and eliminate black granny midwives. So I was just like, damn, I couldn't imagine. And then going forward, just reading about moms, modern day, in the past 30 years, who are of color, tried to advocate, passed away in childbirth, after childbirth, and was not seen or heard. And that could have been my mother. Based off of what I told y'all in my last video, you know, my mother got very ill after she had me, had a stroke, heart attack, and then was in a coma. So it just was scary. And then I began to ask the people around me, you know, what did you experience? And in almost every instance, it has been a point where people did not feel seen, heard, advocated for, etc. And I'm like, wow, this is not a coincidence. I think it's by design, and I'm just hoping that people can view these videos and become empowered to consider, other options, whatever those options look like for you. But I just couldn't believe the things that I was reading. I couldn't believe the things that I was hearing that began to prompt me to ask like people around me, their stories and what they experienced. So yeah, I mean, that's like part 2 of why I am choosing to birth at home, just based off the statistics, evidence-based facts, the people around me who've experienced negligence, malpractice, not feeling seen, heard, not getting the advocacy they needed. Yeah, that's definitely a reason why I chose to birth at home.